Fintech Chatter TV. Presented by Tier 1 People. Leaders in Fintech Executive Search. Hi and welcome to Fintech Chatter, a show where I invite Fintech leaders for a bit of a chat. I'm your host Dexter Cousins, and in 2022 I'm showcasing the next wave of Aussie Fintech founders, so show your support with a subscribe and like. Today's guest is Dan Jovevski. He's the founder of WeMoney. WeMoney is a social financial wellness platform to help people achieve their financial goals. Dan is a second-time founder, having founded, scaled and exited his first fintech, switchmyloan.com.au, back in 2016. WeMoney were also recipients of the People's Choice Emerging Fintech of the Year Award in 2021. Dan is joining me today to have a bit of a chat as the last 12 months for WeMoney and to share some exciting news. Dan, great to have you back.
Oh, it's great to be with you again, Dexter. Long time between drinks. It's so good to be back on.
And we didn't even get the chance to celebrate your Emerging Fintech of the Year win last year.
100%, mate. Well, Intersect is coming right up around the corner, mate, so I'm looking forward to catching up with you there.
Yeah, we it seems to be like we were ships in the night. I think at the last Intersect it was that busy.
So it was so busy.
Yeah. Well, great to have you back on, Dan. How has the last 12 months been since you won the award?
Well, Dexter, it's been nothing short of incredible. I think if I put that into sort of numerical terms, we've been growing our user base and revenue by 30% month on month, since we last spoke.
Wow.
And that is, yeah, look, it's been incredible. I think the first thing that we have to do is take our hats off to our awesome community. I think the if you ask anybody about, what is WeMoney in one word, people would often say community. And it's everyday hardworking Australians who have come together and really supported us, on our journey to create, what we've created today for them. And it's been a largely organic story. So a lot of members that come to WeMoney today are driven by word of mouth referrals. And we're really blessed to have this huge number of everyday people just spreading the word about financial wellness and really just knocking down the taboo. So that's the first, big thank you. The second big thank you is the team who have built WeMoney over the course of the last 12 months and a bit more to really help us get to this point, where we are today. So, yeah, it's been an amazing journey. Honestly, when we spoke last time, Dexter, I can still remember like the back of my hand, but I knew it was some time ago. So barely time to breathe. And
yes, you had some impressive numbers even back then. I think in your first kind of 9 months, you were nearly 100,000 users and customers.
Yeah, I think we're about 90,000, downloads at that point, and we're just sort of shy of about 300,000 now. So yeah, we've really sort of grown by sort of almost 2x since we last spoke, and really started to see an inflection point now in the business where a lot of the activities now are self-fulfilling, as in more people that come to WeMoney, the more people that refer, and so on. So yeah.
So super competitive space that you're in as well, the kind of, the PFM space. How have you, I guess, kind of found differentiating yourselves?
It's a great story, Dexter. We've been a massive student of this category for a very long time. PFM is considered a graveyard. It's a dirty word in the investment community. And it's really something that you often see new entrants coming into this space, but you also see the same number, going out. And the core reason, and when we really took a real deep dive into what are the determinants of success here, is that you have to create something incredibly compelling for an individual to receive constant and sustaining value over a period of time. And you have to be different, because the first thing, as you know, Dexter, that pops into people's mind that sounds great on the first earshot is create a platform that gives you smart insights that can help you manage your money better. And I think that's probably the hygiene factors of the starting line. And we just thought to ourselves, there's two other determinants of differentiation which we are really focused on. One, which is the word I mentioned before, community, is helping people co-create the platform with us. And the one thing we're very proud of is we engage our community for all of our feature development. So you can go inside the WeMoney app right now. You can upvote the features that you really want to see inside the community. And that, builds up a really strong sense of passion amongst our members because they're just waiting for what we can do next together with their help. Um, and I think secondly is really the business model, because a lot of companies that have entered this category before have taken the strategy of either growing user base and figuring out monetization a little bit later on. And I think we've been very purposeful of solving a real problem for members. One of the problems that we solve today, which is probably our biggest source of revenue, is helping members identify opportunities to save money on their existing financial products or other products that they hold that when money leaves their account. So the big one that we see, Dexter, is helping people consolidate debt and helping them take those 3 credit cards with a 25% interest rate, down to a more affordable payment of say 10% or even lower in some cases. And that's life changing. That's almost $200 per month for some consumers. That $2,500 a year that they can do something more with, something more meaningful or substantive in their life. And other products too. We help people save on electricity switching and things like that. And so we're really focused, Dexter, I think, on really building, something which has been such a pain for consumers, which is, I know I can save money on my financial products, but the mere thought of trying to refinance my mortgage, say, for example, people would rather go to the dentist and have a root canal with an anesthetic than, think about, going down that process. So, we've just really doubled down on those 2 axes of differentiation. Number 1, to create a sustainable business model, but number 2, to create something which we think is very unique and compelling, which is this sense of community and authenticity around the topic of money, which is a taboo topic. People don't talk about it. And we think we can bring a unique perspective to that space.
So Dan, this word community kind of gets used a lot. And a lot of businesses in a similar space to you would have a Discord and call that a community. What have you found have been the kind of, the real, I guess, kind of sweat that you've had to put into building that community, and just how difficult is it to build a community that then starts to kind of generate more business for you?
Yeah, such a great question. Dexter, one word is painful. Like in terms of even thinking about community, where do you start? And we had these head scratching moments. Should we build a community externally on a different platform? Should we build it on WeMoney? Ultimately, we chose WeMoney because we thought to ourselves that what doesn't exist in Australia or even the world is where you can see your money all in one place, but then also have a safe and mullet location where you can have that authentic conversation with other members about receiving hints and tips about how people are saving money on groceries, what they're doing in order to do side hustles to generate more income in one place where everybody knows that that individual who comes to WeMoney is a fully authenticated and KYC member. So the analogy we like to use is like Airbnb. When you go to lodge at an Airbnb and you go through the reviews, you don't even question whether or not that review is real or genuine, because you know that same Airbnb user has gone through that full process to become a member. And I think we chose that decision and then to have that more integrated money experience. And what our members can do today, Dexter, is things like if they've seen an improvement in their net worth, they can share that statistic or that notification inside the community with a press of one button to then get help and support from the people who have been following their journey of them trying to achieve their financial goals. Things like the credit score improving. If the credit score improves, they often put a photo of that percentage increase and sharing that with other members. And it has a self-fulfilling effect, because that type of activity coming from real individuals and other people seeing that gives them the confidence, hey, if it's possible for you, it's possible for me too. And one person I'd like to shout out in our community, which I think is really emblematic of what WeMoney stands for, is James Ragg, who works at Woolies out in Queensland. He's one of our heavy contributors. And together with James, we kind of saw this interesting trend where James was posting a lot of content. He was having a lot of wins with his finances. This is somebody that came with a baseline of financial education after high school. And then after WeMoney, he's been learning more about these financial topics and pieces of education, that we created this feature called Shoutouts, where WeMoney selects between sort of 3 to 5 really special posts where we think that person has achieved something remarkable. In James's case, he paid off a car loan within 6 months, and I think the total balance is about $9,000. And the first person that he told was the WeMoney community, where he celebrated that success of becoming debt-free. And we think stories like James are incredibly powerful because there's a lot of people sitting at home worrying about debt all by themselves, not thinking they can get help and support from other people. And so, yeah, we really want to compound on that narrative and really bring out that win-win money. Yeah.
What's been really cool, Dan, this year in particular, I've kind of focused the podcast very much more on earlier stage startups, and it's been, one, it's always great, right, to kind of speak with early stage ideas and just that kind of excitement and buzz. But the thing that's really struck me is this next wave, yourself included, have really focused on kind of fintech as, and the reason why I got involved in it, 6-7 years ago, was the kind of element of it being a force for good, that it could create a better world, a better society, a fairer world. And I think kind of probably lost our way a little bit in the last few years and kind of lost sight of that, why we got into it in the first place. It's great to hear about these, some of the real life stories that you share in there, because at the end of the day, right, that's why everybody got started in fintech.
Oh, 1000%. If we had a billboard, Dexter, what you just said would just be on that billboard. And I think that's so true, is that every day, we're fintech junkies. I mean, we have fintech running through our veins every single second of the day. But, the people that we serve and we help, they're the ones that are just trying to navigate through life. They've got real things coming up that they need to wade through.
Yeah.
And sometimes, money is not just the first thing that pops up. Money is often, the things that you need to worry about as a consequence of achieving something, buying a home, starting a family, buying a car, going on a holiday. Money is just the tool to help people get there. And we just think that there's, to your point of just all these new startups that are focused on solving these real world problems is just taking away all that pain and frustration so people can just live these better lives and, hopefully leaving a legacy behind where the people that come after us can build even further on top of that. So, very excited to see all the other startups that are in this category and around us, because they're all doing one thing, which is supporting a customer, an individual, a real human being become better with money. And that's only a good thing for Australia and the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Now, some massive news out today as well. You guys, do you want to share it with everybody?
Oh, Dexter, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to bring it up. Yeah, so we're announcing a fundraising round of $7 million. So we closed that very recently, announced today in the AFR. And it's a real testament to our existing investors that have supported us on our journey, which all doubled down, tripled down, in some cases even quadrupled down over the course of our fundraising journey. And yeah, that's really going to be going towards two major things. One is product development. Probably about 70% of our effort, energy, and resources now is really improving the product experience, and then a little bit for marketing and G&A or general administrative items. But I think the product, we've got so much on the roadmap that we want to get through, and we've just really focused on the product itself to be the major draw card for a lot of people. And if we can improve that, then we think that hopefully we'll be rewarded with more people using the platform, and then our members becoming successful and us as a consequence of that.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, you touched on this just earlier, Dan. It is like the category that you're in. It is really difficult to get funding. It is really difficult to kind of monetize as well. What was what was your sense as to the appetite there from investors? Did you have a real hard slog in trying to get this round happening, or were people a bit more receptive?
I think people were much more receptive this round, Dexter, because of probably two reasons. We had great existing support from current investors, but secondly, I think I would bucket the type of people we had conversations with in two discrete ways. One bucket is just simply, an investor that is seeking a financial return. They might like what we do, but they probably don't have a lot of affinity or a deep understanding of our space. So they're probably just looking at it from the financial aspects, which is completely fair enough. But the ones where we spent most of our time just building up relationships with are people that really loved what we were doing. They really
Yeah.
cared about the topic. Either they had an experience before they were bad with money in their early 20s and they just felt that firsthand, or they know somebody close to them that did. And that I think struck a lot of emotional resonance with a lot of investors. Some which I think caught us by surprise with like our conversation, and within 30 minutes they said, "Guys, we'd love to come in and support you on the journey."
Wow.
Um, obviously a lot of work, comes up to those points, Dexter. Those things don't happen every single day.
Mm.
But I think the real, I think, takeaway for us in this fundraising round was we focused on the deep relationships that we had with our current investors, but also the people that said yes to investing. Who else within their network they thought was a fit for our business? And so,
Yeah.
for when one investor says yes and they've given you a check, the likelihood that recommendation is going to go a long way with that introduction to the next investor
Mm.
just makes that process more easier. And so we really followed that sort of pathway in this round very organically. It wasn't purposeful to begin with, but when we saw that was
Yeah.
working as a strategy, we really doubled down on that approach where one investor ended up introducing to another one and the third one, and the story's almost endless in that respect. But that was probably the key unlock, is focusing on relationships and focusing on people that really and truly believed in what we were building and they wanted to see
Yeah.
exist in the world.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's really cool what you're sharing there, Dan, because, you know, other businesses would make a big deal about, hey, we're purpose led, we're purpose led, we're purpose led. And that's cool. But, the business has to be led by the intent, rather than you being a purpose led business. I think it has to be around actually what is the intent, right? And how do you go about doing that? How you talk about building the community of users, and then how you talk about building the community of investors, are all around people gathering around this problem that they see, that they actually just want to be part of the solution. I think
Mm.
that kind of there's a real authenticity in that type of approach, rather than you'll see now a whole group of corporates want to be purpose-led businesses because purpose-led businesses are more profitable. So, well, no, you're purpose-led business because you believe in the problem that you're solving, right? And the kind of profit comes down the track, not that you're going to be more profitable because you're purpose-led.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I really, really agree with that. It I think it has to be there, Dexter, in terms of that purpose and that core driver and motivator. And if it's not, it's very hard to manufacture. And especially
Yeah.
your members will sniff that a mile away. They will know
Yeah,
whether or not
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
you've just put a skid around this new initiative. That will only last for so long,
Mm,
and then maybe things will sort of come up later, which may not be the real intent of why you started that organization. But yeah, look, it's a personal story. From my perspective, I came from a family upbringing with not having two brass kangaroos to rub together, and saw the pain that
yeah,
mum and dad went through when they grew up as young adults. When me and my sister, were born, and I would always thought to myself, it was always nagging in the back of my mind, if I could have a time machine to sort of go back and give my parents something that could help them struggle less and do
yeah,
better and sleep better at nighttime. That's the ultimate. That's the nuclear reactor. That's what
yeah,
fires everything that we do, is those
yeah.
personal stories of uh, impact, and it's part of our hiring process as well. We bake that in to hear about some of these stories of people that have gone
Mm,
through tormenting times. And yeah, I think you're totally right, Dexter. It has to be real, it has to be authentic, and there has to be a real reason why you're doing it, as opposed to just putting a banner over something just to
yeah, yeah,
be up with the times.
yeah. Well, you kind of started to talk about this, Dan. This is your second time as a founder, and I thought it would be really cool to kind of share some of the learnings that you've had, and kind of second time around, things that maybe you've done differently, things you've noticed that maybe are harder or easier, kind of, where you were at, say, 5 years ago versus kind of where we're at now. So what's kind of your overall, if you were to look back at the first time around and look at this time, what would you say is the big difference for you between those two experiences?
Oh, mate, heaps. The first one, just to set a bit of context, the first business, switchmyloan.com.au, was me selling everything I had and moving back into mum's lounge room and having just the four walls around me way back in 2012. So there was no podcasting, there was no tech crunch, there was no anything. We literally had to learn everything just by doing it ourselves, trying and experimenting. I think the biggest lessons that I've learned now as a second-time founder is the big one is like emotional regulation, because as a first-time founder, what I often see is that celebration of successes are often done in excess, but also celebration of downsides are often people hang on to downside problems as first-time founders a lot more, thinking they're very catastrophic. But the reality is that you got to get punched in the face every single day. Every single day, there's going to be a little issue that's going to be gnawing away at you that you need to solve. A second-time founder, you're just like, bring it on. I know it's going to be good.
It's almost like you got to flip it, right? Like
you do.
When you have success, that's not the time to party, right? That's the time to
100%.
kind of get focused, analyze. And when you have failure, it's not the time for to overpick it. Just pick yourself up and kind of get back on it, right?
100%, Dexter. That is so true. Is that a fundraising round is a means to an eventual end. It's a celebration because it allows you to go and develop the next phase of the business, but it's not for a celebration for celebration's sort of sake. A lot of people, I think first time founders are probably more focused on the theatre of venture and venture building, as opposed to the actual reason why you're there, which is to create an awesome product in your business. And so when you see like Elon Musk sweating and sleeping on the factory floors, it's because he doesn't really care if there's a raise announcement or whether he gets mentioned in a news article. He really cares about the business that he's building. And I think multiple time founders really sort of embrace that trend. Is where you want to get to. There's going to be heaps of problems and landmines along the way. Try to avoid stepping on landmines as much as you can, but also know that there's a team of people that you need to build and craft and create that story over a long period of time and become much more methodical. It gets a little bit easier, Dexter. I wouldn't say that the problems are any different in terms of there's always going to be problems, but it becomes a lot more easier to navigate those issues sort of over time and problem solve.
And what about hiring and attracting talent? Has that been easier second time around?
Yeah, a little bit easier, Dexter. I think we started WeMoney probably at the height of the fundraising round, 2020. So that was when people were getting heaps of funding. So we did find it challenging. We took probably an unorthodox view of sort of hiring. Number one, we hired of personality and character. You had to have capability, but we weren't too fast if your capability wasn't where you personally wanted it to be. So people were like, I want to be, a mid-level engineer, but I'm only, say, an intern. As long as they had the desire to get to that mid-level engineering position within a period of 2 years of their own personal goal, we were happy to take that, bet with them because they were hungry, they were attentive, they were loyal, and they wanted to stick around to improve their own careers. And we offered that pathway for them. But also they got to see the story from ground zero, from literally a mock-up in a Figma file to launching and having real members utilize that product, the first member, all the way now to multiple hundreds of thousands of people that interact with WeMoney every single year. So people have seen that trajectory, and I think we've done a great job of attracting those type of folks. Look, hiring is always challenging. We don't always get it right, but where we do get it right is where people want to be here because they love what they do and they love what WeMoney does, and they feel like they can make a really big contribution to our members' lives. And it's challenging, but I think we've got an awesome bunch of people that are really amazing folk.
Probably one of the key differences, I would imagine, from first time around to second time around is from a people perspective, going from being office based to now remote and having people all around the country, if not the world. How have you found that kind of shift?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dexter. We started in the depths of COVID, right? We literally ended up raising a fundraising round just as COVID was sort of coming in around February and September in 2020. Sorry, February and March in 2020. And we couldn't travel. We couldn't go to Sydney. We couldn't go to Melbourne. So we had to find people that really wanted to come across that journey, but were very comfortable with being where they were. And so we had a
Yeah,
gent
because you're based in Perth, is that right?
based in Perth. Yeah, we've got four colleagues there. We've got another 4 colleagues in Sydney. We've got a couple of people internationally. We've got an expat or a person that stayed in Thailand due to COVID and ended up creating a life there, who works with us, Dave, in the engineering team. And we didn't see that as an impediment. You wouldn't believe this, Dexter, but our first business, Which My Loan, was also a remote business. It was remote for about
Right.
75% of its lifespan. And to be frank, I didn't really think too much about whether or not we should have an office or shouldn't have an office or build up that company culture. We just knew that by circumstance, we had to build the company remotely because of COVID.
Yeah.
And look, it's been that way ever since. We do have a shared office space. We get together once and again. We had a global team meet in Sydney 2.5 months ago, which was brilliant. We got everybody to come together in one place and location and had weeks and a little bit more of bonding where we got to do team activities. We got to do a hackathon, red team, blue team, and create new products at WeMoney in that physical experience. But it's so amazing that people that I think are attracted to WeMoney want to be here because of that flexibility. Either they can come to the office or they can come home. We don't really care. We don't subscribe to any beliefs where you have to be in the office or you have to be at home. We just make it work.
Yeah. What was it like when you got everybody together?
Oh, it was incredible. It was just incredible. Seeing, when I've spoken to people on Zoom for 2 years, and when you see them in the flesh for the very first time, you're going, you're exactly how you looked on Zoom, but now I get to see how tall you are. So nobody knew how tall people were or anything like that. And that was pretty amazing. The first really interesting sign of like a remote team meeting up for the first time is our engineering team. A CTO who walked into the room and met another engineer. They had not seen each other before in the flesh. They just said hello to each other for about a minute and they just went straight back to coding straight afterwards. So it was like a really interesting experience from the whole team because that's what they want to do. That's who they are as creators, and that's what they really wanted to do. And I think it was really interesting to see that confluence of events. We did some fun stuff. We went out for team dinners. We went to a pasta making session where we got to make pasta as a team. And that was absolutely fun. And we all got together and share on everybody's pasta and how that tasted and all that type of stuff. So, look, it's incredible. And I think you need to do it, at least once or twice a year as a remote team, is having that close physical connection where you get together and see each other, eyeball each other, have fun. Yes, let's get together and do some work, but also let's just have some fun and really get a chance to blow off some speed and build up that that team bonding that's very required in a non-work setting. So, absolutely invaluable.
And look, it's definitely a model, I think, that works for early stage startups, and kind of smaller businesses. Obviously, as you scale and you get more people is when it becomes more complex and more difficult. But it's, I think, absolutely for, if you're going to, and it's something that we've advocated way before COVID to our clients was, say, look, it's really expensive to hire engineering talent in Australia. Look overseas and, kind of preserve your capital and build the product and get customers and then kind of earn the right to hire local talent once you can raise the money to do that.
Yes, 100%. I think it's all a pathway and things sort of morph and change, over time. We're still lucky that, we call ourselves a family because we're quite sort of close knit. There's only 14 of us. But I can see how that changes over time when you get more people, more lines of communication that need to open up. But we're looking forward to the next one next year.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, you recently came back from the US as well, where you were part of a delegation with Austrade Fintech Australia. What was that like?
Phenomenal, Dexter. I can't even begin to tell you how exciting the trip was. So a bit of background and context. It's organised by Austrade, in partnership with an accelerator company called Weave Acceleration.
Yeah.
And Stuart Keane, who he's probably no mention, an absolute stalwart of the fintech community
Yeah.
who works for both of those programs, ended up putting together a awesome 2-week program where we got to attend Lend It, which was now called Fintech Nexus, one of the world's biggest fintech conferences at the Jarlett Center in New York City. And then we did 12 in-market sessions where we got to learn more about what it takes to create a business inside the US, all the way from go-to-market strategy, cultural differences and those nuances between Australia versus the US, hiring, legals, and all that type of stuff. And then it culminated into a demo day where 140 investors, banks, partners all got together at the Rise Barclays Center in New York. And we got to pitch our businesses to that wide audience. There was 8 other incredible Australian fintech and other startups that joined us on that journey. And so it was amazing. It was just really magic. We got a deep sense of appreciation of what it's like to create a business in the US. That's something we're thinking about as on our roadmap. And that is just an incredible program that goes with just a huge endorsement that if you can get into the program, it's only going to help you get that context about launching a business in the US.
What was your kind of sense as to how the fintech scene is in the US compared to Australia? I mean, obviously size is one thing, but when you look at kind of how advanced they are, what were your observations?
Oh, huge distinct differences. The first one that comes to mind is I think because America is so big and there's a lot of companies that have been created over the years, there's advancements in KYC and onboarding, which I never knew were possible. Where in America you can go through a signing up to an account with like a social security number and a few bits of details, and you're fully authenticated to sign up for an account. In Australia, that process will probably take around sort of 3 to 3.5 minutes. It's prone to failure. People get information wrong. But I think the US have really got the infrastructure layer down pat. They've got people like Plaid. They've got people like Stripe. Everything is operating at scale. So it's far faster for any fintech to come in and make a really big impact because they're standing on all this really awesome infrastructure, which I think Australia's getting much better, but I think the Americas are just so far ahead of Australia in terms of that infrastructure play. Culturally, this is a really interesting nuance, I thought, is Americans move fast. They do not want to waste any time. The speed and just dedication in terms of like wanting to move quickly is almost an imperative because it's so competitive. The competitive nature of the States is that it's either you sink or swim in terms of an opportunity. So I found that it being a really stark difference. And I would also say the funding environment, I think that when you go and raise money in the US, the conversations are much more, I would say, casual to a degree, where you're talking about the opportunity and the big idea and what this could be, as opposed to, maybe in sort of more local context where it's, very, I guess, finicky around, okay, what's the next 6 months, 12 months looking like? What are your future fundraising plans and all that type of stuff? So I just found sort of a US investor audience is just a different type compared to, what you see in Australia. Obviously, both very sort of positive in their own ways. So, they're probably the 3 big takeaways.
Cool. So we're kind of coming to a wrap, Dan. But before we do, look, there's some fantastic talent that listens to this show. If they were interested in joining WeMoney, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
If you're interested in a role at WeMoney, then the best way to get in touch is via LinkedIn. So if you just search my name, Dan Jovevski, on LinkedIn, I should pop up, and then just send me a note. Just say, what are you working on? What have you done before? Why are you interested in looking for an opportunity here at WeMoney? And if there's something for you, we'd love to carry that conversation with you. At the moment, I think what we'd love, we'd love to speak to people in the community building space. I think we really love that part of our business to do with some more help at sort of this point. And so anybody in that community building space that's involved in fintech that really cares about transforming members' lives to become better, we're all ears to that.
Yeah. You've also got the WeMoney podcast. Where can people find out about that?
Yeah, it's called We Talk Sense. So if you just head over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you type in We Talk Sense, sense spelt with a CENTS, and then you'll find all the shows there. And we're up to about 72 episodes so far. So it's
Awesome.
a absolute passion of ours. And thanks for calling it out.
Yeah, mate, you're welcome. I think one of the beautiful things about, I've seen with my podcast is having guests on like yourself. I get so many people just comment about how listening to the podcast has influenced how they've gone about their own business or gone about their career, which is just incredible, right? We've now got this archive of all of these founders who are just sharing like their experience like you have today, where it just for the next generations and the next generations, right? Like all of that knowledge we're now kind of have out there. Whereas you talked about your first time around, you didn't have podcasts, you didn't, it's like you had nothing to go at, and it was just kind of test and learn, test and learn. So I think it's just, mate, anybody that's out there who's given free content that's high quality, right? And they're not looking for sponsors and ads and looking to monetize stuff, just share. I think they're always going to get a shout out from us.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'd just like to also credit you, Dexter, on your awesome episode with Dom, Pim from Up. I think that episode went completely full circle talking about the arc of Dom's sort of career. And that was an amazing episode because, to your point, now, Dom gets to have opportunities to give back, inside the community. And I thought that was just a brilliant episode to sort of showcase that entire journey from start to finish and then post-finishing as well.
Okay, Dan, so here we are now, the third attempt at trying to end this podcast. Right? 250 odd episodes between us, and we can't fucking do a podcast, mate. What's going on?
I know. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Murphy's Law, it was bound to happen.
It was. Well, look, we were kind of coming to a wrap, but before we do that, where can people find out about and download the WeMoney app?
Yeah, they can just head to wemoney.com.au and they'll find both the links there for the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store, and they can download the app directly from those two stores for free.
Awesome. Well, Dan, it's been great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for sharing, all the amazing progress of this last 12 months. I mean, it's kind of, worthy winners in 2021 of the People's Choice Award. What more can I say?
Well, thank you so much, Dexter, for having us around. And thank you to all the work that you're doing inside the fintech community and beyond, with the podcast, with everything that you do to help support entrepreneurs, founders, teams, and fintechs, help get to the next level in their businesses. You've been an instrumental part of that. So on behalf of the whole WeMoney team and myself, Dexter, a massive thank you. And it was a pleasure to be on today's show.
Fintech Chatter TV. Presented by Tier 1 People. Leaders in Fintech Executive Search.